Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I am your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned in the course of their business and share them with us as well. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link will be in the show notes below. On today's show, we have our special guest, Lisa Temple. She is the owner of Temple Law, which is a women-owned law firm that helps businesses grow with smart contracts, deals, and counsel. And their value-based pricing means clients get trusted legal guidance without surprise costs, which is always good. So welcome to the show, Lisa. It's great to have you here. And I want to start off with asking you a question that I always ask, and it is this one. If
Sure.
you were to go back, had some sort of time machine, and go back to when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Wow. Start with values. I would, all of my decisions I've come to learn are, it's really important to have a core set of values. And so that has made my decision making a lot easier and align more with where I want to go. So if there were a few years where I hadn't actually written them down. But maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I took the time to kind of rethink, where am I going with this? What am I doing? And so I wrote my list and, it's sometimes hard to fully commit to your values and when you have a hard decision to make, but ultimately it's for me, it's always been the right path. So
Yeah.
that would be my advice to myself when I started this firm about 10 years ago now.
Wow. Yeah. When you talk about values, there's a lot of kind of corporate talk around values. What are the corporate values and all those things? And when I see these, they're almost always the same, something with integrity, something with customer support. So they're very generic in a sense. And sometimes I wonder, do people actually live up to these sorts of values? So when we're talking about values, what do they actually mean to you from that? Because I can tell in the way that you're expressing that it's not just some words that make a company sound good, but it's actually something you live by. So what's the difference between those, and how can someone actually create values that are meaningful that help drive a business forward?
I think it's about authenticity. Since I'm the leader here, I really think about like how I want to lead and show up and also differentiate myself. And so, you know, I am largely doing this, owning my own and running my own business because I didn't really like how others showed up and led. And I don't like bureaucracy. I don't like sharp elbows, and I'm a lawyer. So sometimes that's expected. And, it really forces me to kind of think about who I want to be. And I'm not going to be effective if I'm someone else. And so
Mm.
to me, it's really about knowing yourself. And I think, but if you actually live up to who you are, you will shine and differentiate yourself, especially for someone like me who's not your typical lawyer.
And shoot, okay, I'm very curious now. What's
Yeah.
a typical lawyer, and how do you define yourself different from that? I'm interested.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I started off at a Wall Street firm, and they were actually I liked it because I was a paralegal there before. They're a nice group of people, but some of it felt required to kind of sink or swim to really be aggressive in the way you interact with people, usually counterparties, or yeah. So and it just doesn't mesh with who I am. I find I get better results you have to be tough for sure, but I find that I get better results if I have a more collaborative approach.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it did, because I think there's a lot of preconceived ideas and perceptions on what lawyers are and what attorneys do and all that. So it's just really interesting, like, what's your take of not a a traditional type of lawyer, which is really cool. So a lot more integrated in what you just feel is congruent on the way that you operate with things.
Yes, and also listening. I know a lot of lawyers love to hear themselves talk,
Yeah.
and our approach is more empathetic and making sure that the results you will get is what you actually want and expectations are set up front. And so it requires more emotional IQ, I think, than a lot of other lawyers have. And
Mm.
so again, another differentiator, and also living up to like just being authentic to who we are.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. It's amazing. Well, one of the other questions I love to ask Lisa is this. In the course of your business, I know you will have come across many challenges because we all do as business owners. But is there one particular business challenge that you feel comfortable sharing that at the time felt almost overwhelming to the point where you didn't know how you get through it? But when you look back at it, you can go, do you know what? Actually, if I hadn't have learned that or gone through it, I wouldn't be where I am today. And what are the lessons that you learned from that?
You know, it's really interesting that you asked that question right now because I'm kind of at the beginning of feeling better about something.
Okay.
So it's so you know, check back in with me in a few months, but or a year, I don't know. But you know, we've been preparing a Temple Law for AI. And no, you know, we use it ourselves. I don't know if that's taboo to say, but I think everyone is using
Yeah.
ChatGPT and other things. Um, but also clients are using it. And we knew that in our services, business law. So we do a lot of drafting, negotiating contracts, and advising clients on contracts. And so you could imagine that ChatGPT does an okay job at doing some of that.
Mm.
And so, you know, we saw this coming and we started preparing by putting together our value-based pricing, which is largely comprised of flat fees and subscription-based pricing, because we know that you know, competing on an hourly basis is not really a great idea if your work is you know, the value that you're providing isn't easily measured by the hour anymore, like most attorneys
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
So that is actually, you know, been more theoretical. People in the last few years it's been status quo, I would say, but in the background, we've been rolling out flat fee pricing and subscription pricing. And when I'm talking to other lawyers, usually at bigger law firms, are like, "You're crazy," and I'm like, "You're crazy because you're not on board with the revolution." Um, so recently, though, this summer and maybe in the spring as well. Spring's usually a little slower for us, and this summer is really slow, and started to panic because I have employees and overhead, of course.
Mm.
That, oh my gosh, are we going to make it? And so I started really pushing our flat fees and subscription pricing, and just recently getting some really good traction that's setting us up for a really nice year ahead, with
Nice.
some really bigger clients who have hired us on subscription basis, and a lot of other clients who really like our flat fees for predictability and transparency. So I'm starting to sleep better. But there was a moment there where that wasn't the case. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that because I can tell as you said, it's still quite new with the transitions with stuff for
Hmm.
you, but it's a great example of looking at the market, understanding, trying to get ahead of what's happening in the marketplace. What are some of the things that you've had to maybe tell yourself or ground yourself in that process? Because even if something, anyone listening to this, they may not be going through something exactly the same, but they might be going through something similar. Like, how do you ground yourself on just keeping going, wondering, okay, even that point where you said, I don't know if can we even keep going at this?
Yeah.
What do you do to just keep yourself that level leader, keep going, even though in your head you're kind of going, oh my God.
Yeah, well, even over the last 2 years when we were putting together and figuring out how to do flat fees, those challenges I almost wanted to give up because they are quite overwhelming. For example, how you pay your people. If it's, I wasn't doing salary for everyone, I was doing hourly. And so that's a mismatch and a great risk if my flat fees don't pay off very well. And the processes behind how we, charge people and evaluate things. I mean, that was just very overwhelming, how to scope projects. And throughout that process and the recent dip in work, I just, I had faith in myself, and in what I was seeing in the market and talking to, I put myself out there and talked to other leaders and kind of, in the alternative fee space, like vendors and other attorneys, and just kept showing up and incrementally doing the work and telling myself that if I show up every day, it will happen. I'm still doing that, as I'm not through the woods completely, but I think just having that, it's, you got to pick a direction, right, and go for it. There's no looking back. You got to be that shark that, you got to have your head looking forward, and your head's on a swivel, but don't look back. Commit. So that's what I've just been doing, and it has been stressful, but it's been rewarding as well, because there are a lot of good benefits of the recent changes we made. So it's good.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, this leads into another question I'd like to ask. Over the next 2, 3 years, where are you wanting to go in your business? What are your goals?
Great question. I would like to grow my business. I know a lot of attorneys are actually, I've heard that 70% of Connecticut attorneys are solo practitioners. I really like a small shop, but I like working with people. My team, we're awesome. We've been working together for years, and I gain a lot of that value from them. I learn from them every day, and I just love it. So I want to keep that going and build a team out a bit more, maybe with some more, we have an intellectual property expertise, but I think that's very valuable to our clients. So I want to expand that more and maybe expand into litigation even. So I want to expand is the response.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, it's great. It's great to see that you're changing up the fee structures and the way you're doing that, and that's been a challenge, but also that growth on the horizon with what you're doing as well, which is absolutely phenomenal. Really, really cool. I love hearing that. Well, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, I am accessible, either on LinkedIn or email. You can email me at lisa@temple-law.com. And those are probably the best ways to find me, but I'm also on Instagram. And I do have a phone number, but that's less reliable. I get spams all the time. I don't know about you, but that's
Yeah.
better to email. I'll actually respond to that more quickly, I will say.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Well, that is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for just your pearls of wisdom that you gave on the show today. It's been absolutely great to have you on, Lisa. And as a reminder, everyone, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and that will be in the show notes below.